We're on the clock. In this year-end edition, we'll talk about the stories that were important but didn't quite make our countdown. Here's one of them. Sexual assault on college campuses was an important national story in 2014. The Department of Justice began an investigation this fall into how the University of New Mexico handles sexual assault allegations. And Gwyneth, what's the significance of that investigation? Because once those guys step in, things change. You know what I mean? It's not as if we're policing our own anymore. What's the upshot here for you?
Well, I think it'll make it more of a community conversation, which it probably needs to be. You know, when I talk about this issue with people of different ages, I'm surprised at the things that I hear. And it highlights for me the changing nature of relationships between young people today and how completely unfamiliar that is to people of different generations. They just don't understand how it is that men and women interact in college today. They don't understand sexting, and they don't understand hooking up, and they don't understand sexual liberation of young people, and they don't talk about it. And so I think some of the things that UNM has started doing proactively are trying to start these conversations and talk with vulnerable young people, people who are vulnerable to being assaulted and to behaving poorly, and get them talking about what it means to say yes and what it means to say no, and what is a good way to treat another human being and what's not.
Sure, that's good. That's a great recap. Pat, your sense on this one?
I think that it's going to be a conversation nationally, and we've got obviously unique circumstances here in New Mexico, and even some from the side of the accused, which there were some football players, 2 football players and a friend of theirs that originally were charged. The charges were dismissed. Now they're suing, and I think that'll probably be a part of the conversation too. But when it comes to consent and rape on campuses, you know, the Defense of Women Act has got some elements to it that take effect this year on college campuses, where some data is going to be available to all of us. And I think that it's going to be an excellent window into the truth behind sort of the rape culture on college campuses that we didn't have before. I think there was some groundbreaking journalism done in pockets of the country about failures and even some really vile situations where accusers were the ones reprimanded. And this is going to pull back that veil or threaten to take away some federal money from institutions.
There you go. We're on the clock, but that was a good one. Wanted to go long on that. Russell, your thought on that quickly?
I was surprised how aggressive the federal government has been in checking some of these schools. We see what happened in Montana. So after this came out, I'm looking at what's going on.
Sure.
It's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. Rachel, your sense?
There is a conversation that needs to take place nationally around consent, and it seems like most of the conversation around consent has always been, how can women not get raped? And it's time to start acknowledging that there are other parties involved, and how everyone can, as Gwyneth said, make sure that everyone in an interaction wants to be there.
Sure. Well said. This year we covered the controversy over the renaming of Kit Carson Park in Taos. The Taos City Council voted to change the name of the park to Red Willow Park. There were a lot of debate about that and whether the park should celebrate the settler Kit Carson or remove the name completely because he was part of efforts to remove Native Americans from their lands, either through force or killing them. And Patrick, again, we're on the clock, about 15 seconds if I can. What does this signal to you about the continued debates about places like this? Does this mean something? We've been very casual about Kit Carson Park in that name for a long time, and suddenly it's not quite what it used to be.
Well, it's kind of a foot in the door to perhaps other conversations that would be valid in New Mexico, Don Juan Onete, others that might be viewed by some cultural groups as conquerors.
Yeah, exactly right. Gwyneth, your thought on this one?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating example of the way that we in New Mexico tend to just get along and kind of leave these things be for a while, and then a controversy like this comes up, and you realize there are simmering pots out there, and all you have to do is pull up the lid and you're like,
that's
whoa.
Right.
So I think it's a really important conversation, and I think it highlights that we probably need to have it more often than just when we're renaming a park.
That's a good point. Russell Contreras?
You know, and this highlights what our problem of never naming anything after George I. Sanchez, a legendary educator.
That's right.
He's from here. He's the father of ethnic studies,
right.
And there's nothing named here.
Right.
And that's something we should have.
I've had this conversation with lots of different people. We can take on that one later, of course. What do you think on this one, Rachel?
I don't think this conversation's going away. I think it's just going to keep coming up in new ways, and it's an important one to have.
And absolutely. In January, a middle school student in Roswell shot 2 other students. The shooting victims thankfully survived. although they were both very seriously injured. Russell, school shootings are a concern across the country, certainly. We got visited with this year in New Mexico. It was really quite jolting to have this happen, wasn't it?
It was, and again, the mental health came up.
Right.
And
That's right.
it came up, and then the discussion came out, and seeing how it really transformed Roswell and how they rallied. And it was really interesting to see how the national media covered it. They kind of flowed in as opposed to those in New Mexico. We were asking questions, and they wanted to talk about gun control. Well, it's Roswell.
Right.
It's a non-issue.
Non-starter, that's right, as they say. Rachel, what did you make of this one?
One of the things that was really interesting to me is to see after the shooting, some of the students from Arapahoe in Colorado, where there had been a school shooting, came down to talk to the students in Roswell. So there's now this brotherhood and sisterhood of kids who have seen stuff you should never see that can only talk to each other. That was really...
That's very positive. I hadn't heard that. That's interesting. Pat, your thought on this one?
Well, I was a cub reporter when Columbine happened, and I was in Colorado, and at the time, it just seemed like bizarro world that how could this be happening? And now these things, unfortunately, have become so prevalent that if it's not in your town or your state, it might not even make page one.
Right. Could school systems be doing anything different? I know it's a tough one in 15 seconds, but is there something we could be doing?
Probably.
Yeah, well, there you go, yeah.
You know, what I want to say is the fact that there is now a brotherhood and sisterhood is one of the saddest things about this story to me, is that we have just come to accept this as a cost of doing business.
Interesting that this year, the National Cancer Institute announced it will study the health effects of the atomic bomb test at the Trinity site in New Mexico. Patrick, residents in Tula Rosa have been looking for this for a long time about health impacts, but it can only help, I would think, to finally get after this. What do you think?
It can only help, but I think, you know, those that I've heard from wonder if it's enough. They say we've been asking for really retribution for generations of very serious illness here, and please explain to us why. They're getting a study, but they're maybe not getting all that they want and potentially deserve.
Exactly. Quinn?
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I was down in southern New Mexico talking to some folks earlier this summer, and several of them mentioned to me, you know, hearing these explosions go off and just knowing nothing about it for decades afterward. And so I think there are still old wounds there that are psychological as well as physical.
And these things are generational. I mean, you may not have been alive, but if somebody in your family was alive in the area, it's important to have the study to find out what's going on, I would think.
Sure, absolutely. I think thinking about the conversations that would take place among agencies about reparations and where money would come from, I think it's unlikely these people are going to get the answers that they're looking for ultimately.
What do you think, Russell?
And we'd always been told, or at least assumed, that nobody was affected in these tests, that this is part of a larger war effort, and we tended to believe that and look the other way.
Interesting. Thanks you all for helping me recap 2014. Great to have you guys here. We also want to say a special thank you to Floyd Vasquez, who produced all of our election coverage this fall. Join us again next week when this panel right here peeks ahead into 2015, and head to our website for more on other stories and other On the Clocks. Thanks for joining us as we wind down 2014. It's been a pleasure having you with us throughout the year as we follow the important stories here in New Mexico. Be sure to find us on social media by searching New Mexico in Focus. You can find archived interviews and bonus material on our YouTube channel and at newmexicoinfocus.org. Next week, you can catch an encore presentation of our interview with author George R.R. Martin, and The Line makes a few predictions for the new year. I'm Gene Grant. We'll see you next week in the new year in Focus.